Hey guys, D.Bowie here, and these are things I learned with Fierce Terrorblade. Before I start this video, I want to make an announcement. I talked to a fair share of people in the esports scene, and I guess I never really understood how stuff works. It's completely unheard of for someone to be called to co-cast a game without experience and a fair share of casts. I did not found anyone to cast with me, so I will be making chill casts in my Twitch channel as often as possible, just watching the game and pointing out what I think. One problem with my Twitch account is that I rarely used it, and because of that, Twitch never gave me the option to change video quality, making the stream rather laggy for most people. To help me solve this issue ASAP, I will give another Arcana way. To participate, all you need to do is subscribe to my Twitch channel, YouTube, and Twitter, and watch my first stream. There are no relevant games going on right now besides the DAC qualifiers, and as I record this video, I'm pretty sure I won't be awake in time to cast that one. So I will announce this week which game and at what time my first cast will be so that you can participate. As most of you guys know, ever since 7.0.0, Luna has been getting some nerfs. It is not unknown that Terrorblade is a somewhat counter to Luna, the attack range aspect as well as reflection being the biggest factors to that. Even though Luna was such a common pick during and after TI6, Terrorblade was rarely picked. Part of that is because he was somewhat heavily nerfed in the last patch before TI, so I guess teams weren't so interested in playing him. After 7.0.1 and 7.0.2, with even more nerfs to SD and Luna, as well as more experimentation, we are seeing way more Terrorblade picks than before. The biggest problem Terrorblade faces is the downtime on metamorphosis. This skill is the true ultimate from the hero and indeed has the biggest cooldown. Even though the skill is very strong, the fact that you lose move speed when you use it, as well as being pretty much forced to go power threads on him because of the synergy with illusions, make professional teams and good players able to disengage and waste the cooldown. That being said, when you're ahead and you're pushing their barracks, they can't really ignore you, and that's the biggest strength of Terrorblade. When the enemies can't ignore you or kite you, you're one of the strongest cores in the game. In this clip, for instance, Fear pops Metamorphosis because he felt like Pudge was going to be able to get a hook. After the skill is wasted, you lose a lot of aggressive possibilities and can even die from ganks if the enemy team is interested in killing you. One thing I want to point out, and that feels minor but it really isn't, is that until Meta got wasted, he was going for threads, but instead he decided to get Dragonlance. You might be wondering why. Well, since he has Meta on cooldown, he fears enemy aggression and has to go farm the jungle. When you farm the jungle with the hero, the only way to farm reliably is using your illusions to tank the enemy jungle creeps, so that you and the next illusions can maintain a good HP threshold. Dragonlance offers both the agility and strength in the same item, while with threads he has to choose getting more strength or agility. It's just a better item to farm the jungle because of the tankiness. Power threads is better for the thread switch aspect when he starts pushing the towers, which he will not be doing until the next cooldown of Metamorphosis. One thing I just tested and that surprised me is that now that illusions benefit from attack speed, you do get more value out of power threads pushing than Dragonlance, which actually surprised me since Dragonlance is actually more expensive than power threads. When Fear finally decides to go for a push, pay attention how he times that with his power threads and magic wand being ready. Another important aspect is him being level 9, having max Metamorphosis, illusions and Sunder, so he's fully abusing the strength of those skills. I don't like him casting meta with his threads pretty much coming to him, but the fact he has int threads and magic wand means that if a fight breaks out, he will have mana for Sunder. Dire tries to contest in full force, but since his team was well positioned, they get a kill on Amber and disengage. And well, this is one of the main weaknesses of Terrorblade. When you can't get your push to work, you have a big downtime in your hands. In this time frame, the enemy team knows that fights or pushes are pretty much not viable for you. Sometimes this is fine, but against teams with a lot of early push or gank, you can struggle a lot with a failed push. Anyways, as Fear farms, he keeps using the illusions to get less hits in lane, as well as push the lane that is closer to him, meaning that he can spot rotations and ganks against him easier. In this team fight, we can see something I did talk about in my Eternal Envy video about Terrorblade, the way and order you should use your skills. Pay attention how he doesn't pop Metamorphosis until he's in attack range of Slark. Then, he only uses Reflection when a ton of different enemies are close to him. One of the biggest mistakes I see Terrorblade players making is that they pop Metamorphosis first, then since they have less move speed they have to walk until the fight, and to do that faster they pop Reflection, usually only clipping one enemy hero. The optimal way to do this is approach the fight without popping Metamorphosis, and then when you are in attack range, you use the skill. It's also good to wait for the best time to cast Reflection, usually if the enemies start disengaging or if key enemy heroes that you want to pop meta are nearby. These key heroes usually have auras or are just very strong and farmed cores that will deal a ton of damage to themselves. One thing to point out this game is Fear going Pyke before even starting a Yasha. There is a good reason for that. Even though Pyke is terrible against Slark, Fear would usually be able to tank the damage a Slark packs during 1 pounce, but not during the Ember Spirit Bomb. Pyke is an easy way to deal with the magic burst damage coming from him. Also, note that on top of that, Pyke can be used against Ravage like Fear does when he TPs to disengagement in the mid lane. After he dodges the stun, we can see how hard it is for Terrorblade to really commit to a fight if the enemy team is a little bit slippery. Even though Fear decided to hold on mana, when he goes for it to try to burst with her before she ults, she runs away. And even Lyle kites him. The thing though is that they can kite you, but then you can take towers if you're in fighting shape. In the end, the tower gets denied, but a great trade anyways. As he goes back to farm, we see the same pattern, farming jungle with his main hero and make the illusions push the lane that is closer to him. It's actually fairly easy to micro them to get less hits since at this point you already hit for a lot of damage. When Dire goes for a mid tower push, I really like Fear going back to take his BKB. They are against a Tide Hunter. If for instance Slark was in that area between tier 1 and tier 2, he could take the courier down or give vision for Tide to initiate when he didn't have his BKB ready. He walks towards the fight, uses mana, and I don't like this reflection in particular. He preemptly BKBs. As he hurricane pikes forward, look at his clicking patterns, attacking and moving tons of times. But even then, Tide runs away. When they lock Slark down, I really like Fear going to the high ground, in case he took that direction after the stun duration. In the end, he was fairly controlled during the fight, but that didn't stop his team from winning it. And I mean, in the downtime of meta, he just kept farming. One thing that is important to note during this game is that because of the early Hurricane Pike, there is no way that Fear can get picked off unless he gets picked off by at least 2 heroes, and they will need ults to kill him, like Finger of Death or Ravage. And well, this is not hard to happen, right? It is though if he keeps using mana when it's ready, forcing ults and cooldowns. One thing that I did very wrong when I started playing Terrorblade is that I felt like farm was more important than using mana. If he pushes or fights with his team, as he's doing in this game, he's very likely to survive the fights because he will be on the back of the fight. That in itself forces cooldowns from the enemy team in those fights, and then there's no real threat to him as he farms. That combined with him sending the illusions to push lanes decreases the chances of him getting picked off as well. Look at the cooldown of mana. At the 11-minute mark, he uses the power spike of Dragonlance and Treads to push. That fight not only forces tons of rotations, it gives them the Ember Q, and more importantly, since meta is almost over, not only fighting top against Ravage is reckless, but it means that no one has the ability to TP bottom and contest his farm there. As he farms, another fight starts. With Ravage down and him having meta pretty much ready, he joins in, takes another tower, and now he knows it's pretty much impossible for him to die unless they smoke gank as 5. Kinda hard to do with the lanes pushing all the time. As soon as meta is ready again, he is already using it in this mid fight. The only downtime was him going back to base to regen. Another fight that forces Ravage and Finger of Death. No enemy casualties, but space was created for tier 2 to fall. Rinse and repeat. The next fight he synchronizes the BKB timing with the next use of meta, but pay attention how most of the time he almost never spent more than 1 minute with Metamorphosis ready and did not use it. The only reason he still didn't use it is because he was waiting for the BKB to arrive. This is the most important part of playing Terrorblade that people forget about. Using meta is not only about fighting or pushing in itself, but since you're so strong in this state, you guarantee your survival while key cooldowns are being spent, giving you breathing time to keep your item progression up, instead of you being ganked and then losing map control. This is also why heroes that don't rely on cooldown so much are good against Terrorblade. Heroes like Storm, Timbersaw, Tinker, X, they won't give you that breathing time because they will always have everything they need to kill you. Playing against these heroes not only is harder, but takes a different approach. After the last engagement, and knowing that they are stronger, he already rotates bottom to use the skill again. So the biggest mistake of Terrors is playing this hero like Anti-Mage or the old PL, where you just farmed and split push the whole game. Yes, Terrorblade can do that really well, but unlike Anti-Mage, after you get all those items, you can win one fight and lose the other one right away because you won't have have Metamorphosis ready. The way to approach any hero is always using their power spikes as soon as they are ready, and maxing a skill like Meta and not using it because you want to farm is both greedy and dumb. The way Fury plays the hero is really calculated. Yeah, Tide will respawn in 30 seconds, yet Terrorblade is a different hero without Metamorphosis, so he disengages, and he actually does this the entire game. If he doesn't have Metamorphosis ready, he will not go for a push. Well, this wraps up for today. If you enjoyed this video, please guys give it a thumbs up. If you want to see the extended version of this video, please check the link in the description. And I can't overstate how this video wouldn't ever be possible without the huge help from the Pugna guys, so please show them some love. Pugna is a platform where you can learn from people like Chessie, Fogged, Slasher, Monib, and get better at the game. They have now great content on 7.0.0, and if you want to raise your MMR, it's a great time. Just figure out the patch faster than others and get those easy wins out of your item build. And I would only recommend something like this if you want to go very early for a push. In this case, going Threads, that synergizes amazingly well with him because of thread switching, is the best course of action in my opinion. And we will talk a little bit about thread switching because he doesn't do a lot of it during the teamfights, and there's a reason for that, but just wait a little bit. This is something N0tail abuses during the entire game. As N0tail goes from the base to the lane, pay attention how he spams quills to walk faster from one point to another. That's something not so common, since usually Bristleback struggles with mana, but since he was mid, he actually